What happens when a duchess decides to bottle her lifestyle and sell it to the masses, only to watch those same masses return it in droves? Not dislike, not disinterest, but a full-blown rejection. Box after box, label after label, honey jars shipped back unopened, tea canisters dumped on doorsteps, crepe mix left to expire in retail storage units. What was supposed to be Meghan Markle's elegant reinvention turned into an implosion so humiliating, so swift. It left even her most loyal aides stunned. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. And somewhere in the middle of the chaos, as emails flew, brand managers panicked, and a carefully curated image began to shatter, Meghan allegedly screamed 3 words that would echo across the sleek offices of her lifestyle startup. "I hate you all." Harsh. Maybe. Accurate? We're about to find out. Because this is not just another celebrity brand failure. This is not an overpriced candle burning out or a beauty line buried in Sephora's clearance bin. This is Meghan Markle, the woman who walked away from the royal family, reinvented herself on her own terms, and declared, in front of millions, that she was finally free. This was supposed to be her empire, her goop, her Martha Stewart moment, her Diana meets California chic fantasy come to life. Instead, it's collapsing in real time. And we have the receipts. So let's rewind. Let's go back to where it all began. The polished Netflix reveal, the soft focus lens, the talk of healing, of connection, of intention. The jam jars lined up like soldiers of authenticity. The bees buzzing in the promo clips. The white marble countertops. The golden hour lighting. The message was clear: you don't just buy products. You buy into Meghan's world. But what if the world she built wasn't real? What if it was never meant to hold? What if all the sleek packaging, the branded ribbons, the earnest monologues about organic farming and community healing were just a glossy cover for a business model that was already cracking at the seams? Because that's exactly what's being whispered in PR boardrooms, leaked in staff Slack channels, and hinted at in influencer group chats. As ever, the lifestyle brand launched with Netflix fanfare and global media blitz is now in the middle of a catastrophic PR nightmare. And the numbers don't lie. Return rates climbing past industry averages. Retailers quietly dropping SKUs from shelves. A sharp drop in customer retention. Bulk orders from boutique distributors abruptly canceled. Reviews piling up online with complaints ranging from flavorless to spoiled. Even a TikTok trend mocking the brand's crepe mix, comparing it to school glue with a royal label slapped on it. It's bad. Worse than bad. It's embarrassing. And for Meghan Markle, an image-obsessed former actress whose brand depends entirely on curation, control, and emotional resonance, embarrassment is lethal. So how did we get here? How did a brand born out of royal rejection and Hollywood ambition stumble so spectacularly? How did Meghan, who once stood on the global stage as a symbol of modern femininity and defiant independence, end up as the punchline of a consumer revolt? It starts with the launch. A launch that, on the surface, looked flawless. But behind the scenes, cracks were already forming. You've seen the Netflix series. With Love, Meghan, a pastel-filtered documentary/advertorial disguised as a lifestyle series. Viewers were promised a glimpse into Meghan's soulful, grounded, eco-conscious domestic world. Instead, they got carefully choreographed shots of Meghan arranging jam jars while delivering TED Talk-style narration about self-care. Every product on screen, every tea tin, every linen-wrapped crepe kit, every monogrammed bottle of honey was part of a meticulously engineered rollout. The show was a 60-minute commercial aimed at emotionally connecting you to the brand, not because of what it offered, but because of who offered it. But here's the thing about emotional marketing. It only works if the audience believes the emotion is real. And many didn't. Plastic sincerity, cult vibes, Instagram cosplay of authenticity. These were the early critiques, buried between the glowing press quotes. Dismissed at first as trolling. But now, they're starting to look prophetic. Because the returns didn't start slowly. They started immediately. Within 3 weeks of launch, the brand's logistics team was reportedly overwhelmed with product returns, refund requests, and complaints. Not just isolated reviews, but mass behavior. Whole shipments sent back unopened. Damaged packaging. Missing expiration dates. Customers reporting mold inside a tea blend that was supposed to be sun-dried in Meghan's personal garden. Then came the real kicker. Boutique stores quietly removing products from their shelves, citing discreet quality concerns. But what if the quality wasn't the real issue? What if the backlash was personal? What if, deep down, consumers didn't return the jam because of taste, but because of who they believed they were buying from? Let's be honest. Meghan's relationship with the public has always been divisive. To her supporters, she's a feminist icon. To her critics, she's manipulative and self-absorbed. And when she asked people to buy into her brand, to trust that her honey was healing, her jam was spiritual, her crepes were an act of feminist expression, it wasn't just about the product. It was about the person. So when even fans began criticizing the quality, when longtime Meghan supporters tweeted, "This tea tastes like anxiety," it wasn't just about flavor. It was about trust. And that trust? It broke. And that's when it happened. According to insiders, a now infamous meeting took place in Ever's Los Angeles office. Meghan, surrounded by her core team, reviewing numbers that looked more like a stock crash than a startup's launch window. Aides shuffling spreadsheets. PR managers trying to spin. And then, "I hate you all." The words hung in the air, we're told. Not screamed. Spat. Controlled. Clipped. Like a final verdict. Some say she was furious about a leak. Others say she was devastated by betrayal. A few suggest she was spiraling, caught between being a failed duchess and a failing entrepreneur. We may never know the full context of that moment, but it marks a turning point. From that moment on, Ever wasn't just a failing brand. It was a collapsing kingdom. Behind the scenes, people started jumping ship. Advisors quit. Influencers ghosted. A designer vanished days before launch. And Meghan? She doubled down. More polished posts. More tightly controlled messaging. But the mask, many say, was slipping. And here's the most ironic part. The very series that launched the brand, the Netflix darling, the soft-focus fairy tale, now sits on the platform like a haunted house. Beautiful still, but empty. Forgotten. A monument to ambition and blind spots. Because Meghan didn't just sell jam. She sold perfection. She sold a version of herself so hyper-curated, so emotionally manipulated, that when reality broke through, it broke hard. And now, the story is spiraling. Return products are just the beginning. There are emails. There are recordings. There are influencers with stories. There are former friends with regrets. There are even whispers of legal threats, PR cover-ups, and royal family reaction. Yes, the royals have noticed. And if you think they're staying quiet forever, you're in for a surprise. Because what comes next isn't just about a lifestyle brand. It's about reputations. It's about power. It's about revenge. And for Meghan Markle, the woman who once walked behind the Queen's coffin and claimed her place in history, this might be her most dramatic act yet. But first, we need to talk about what really happened in that Netflix launch. Because what looked like the beginning of a beautiful new chapter was actually the first crack in the foundation. And once it started breaking, nothing could stop it. What happens when you build an empire on vibes and forget the foundation? Let's pick up where we left off. Meghan Markle had just watched her Netflix-fueled dream begin to curdle into a PR disaster. The jam wasn't selling. The tea was being mocked. The honey had gone bitter. And in a swanky office filled with candlelight and curated mood boards, her words echoed. "I hate you all." But how did it get to that point? What triggered the spiral? What poisoned the launch? Let's go back. Because the true beginning of this collapse wasn't a spreadsheet or a tweet. It was a moment, softly lit and tightly scripted, beamed into millions of homes. The launch. With love, Meghan. A title so deliberately gentle it felt like a whispered hug. Or a warning. The episode opens with a slow pan. Morning sun streaming through French windows, a table adorned with floral centerpieces, stone-ground crepe mix, and hand-labeled jars of strawberry basil jam. Then her voice. Measured, melodic, controlled. I've always believed that what we create in our homes reflects who we are inside. Cut to bees. Real bees. Not CGI. Allegedly from a private colony Meghan nurtured in Montecito. Then the close-up on her hands, arranging jars, folding linen, scooping crepe mix into rustic ceramic bowls. The message was clear. This wasn't a business. It was a calling. But here's the catch. Audiences didn't buy it. Not all of them. Because what looked like authenticity to some looked like a performance to others. And not just any performance, but a curated spectacle designed to manipulate emotion. You see, the internet has a way of sniffing out the staged. And Meghan's brand? It didn't just whisper perfection, it screamed it. No mess. No chaos. No children shouting in the background. Not a single unfiltered moment. Not a fingerprint on the glass. Not a price tag in sight. It was a Disneyland version of domesticity. And audiences? They saw the seams. One viral tweet summed it up. Meghan's kitchen looks like it's never seen a real pancake. This isn't authenticity. It's anthropology chic for rich people. Another. Where's the part where the crepe burns and the toddler cries? And another, more brutal. She wants to be Diana with a spatula. Hard pass. The irony? That perfect visual she presented, the neutral-toned, ethically sourced, rose-petal-scented launch, it was the very thing that triggered the unraveling. Because people didn't see themselves in her. They saw a brand using their emotions as currency. Let's talk about the products for a second. The teas, the jams, the honey, the crepe mix. Each came with a story. This honey was harvested by women overcoming trauma. This jam was inspired by a dream I had about my grandmother's garden. This crepe mix uses wheat milled on ancestral soil by a third-generation farmer who plays jazz at sunrise. Okay, not the jazz part, but you get the picture. Everything was saturated in meaning, in purpose, in Meghan-ness. And that might have worked if it hadn't felt so calculated. Now let's compare. When Gwyneth Paltrow launched Goop, she leaned into elitism. This isn't for everyone, was the subtext. And guess what? It worked. Meghan tried to sell Goop-flavored products with Oprah-level relatability. That contradiction? It cracked the illusion. Let's break it down. Scene 1. The first drop. The first batch of as ever products went live during the final segment of episode 1. QR codes appeared on screen. Shopify servers were ready. A marketing email hit inboxes titled, "With love, from Meghan." It was supposed to be a coronation. Instead, it was a crash. Within 48 hours, the following occurred. Multiple users reported checkout errors. Product descriptions were vague and inconsistent. The $28 crepe mix went viral on Reddit. Not in a good way. One influencer accidentally revealed their promo box was pre-written, with fake customer stories inside. And just like that, the conversation shifted. From admiration to mockery. TikTokers filmed unboxing parodies. YouTubers began dissecting the ingredient list. Instagram wellness accounts compared the honey to generic brands with near-identical compositions, at a fraction of the cost. The worst? A viral TikTok of a woman spreading Meghan's jam on toast, tasting it, and saying flatly, "It tastes like betrayal, but in a cute jar." Ouch. Scene 2. Influencer fallout. Now here's where it gets dark. Because Meghan had A-list support. In theory, Oprah, Serena, Ellen, Mindy, Priyanka, Chrissy. But guess what? Almost none of them posted about the products beyond launch day. 0 organic usage. 0 reviews. 0 Sunday breakfast with Meghan's crepes moments. And the few who did, their posts felt cold. No smiles. No interaction. Just static product placement. Then it got worse. A mid-tier influencer with a sizable following made a now-deleted video admitting she'd received the As Ever box 6 months earlier and had been told to wait until the show drops. 6 months. That revelation detonated online. Suddenly, this wasn't a lifestyle brand. It was a scripted rollout. An infomercial with royalty seasoning. And once audiences knew they were being played, the trust evaporated. Scene 3. The quiet collapse. Retailers noticed. Smaller boutiques started pulling the products, citing customer confusion. Large e-commerce platforms reduced homepage placement. One luxury grocery chain allegedly held back its pre-orders after seeing the review storm on Twitter. Internally, panic. According to leaks, Meghan's team debated rebranding the product line without her name, delaying episode 2 indefinitely, quietly removing the most criticized items. Spoiler, the crepe mix didn't survive. At this point, Meghan was still publicly smiling. But behind closed doors, that infamous meeting, the one where she dropped those 3 words, was about more than frustration. It was about collapse. Because for Meghan, this wasn't just about failing to sell jam. It was about being rejected. Personally, publicly, viscerally. You can survive bad press. You can't survive becoming a punchline. And when her healing honey became the centerpiece of a meme comparing it to cough syrup and celebrity delusion, something cracked. But here's the twist. Even amid the chaos, somebody warned her. An advisor. A former brand consultant. Someone who reportedly said, weeks before launch, this isn't going to connect the way you think it will. You're trying to sell California authenticity through a British royal filter, and those audiences hate each other. But Meghan didn't listen. And now, the bees are buzzing in the wrong direction. Because just as she was trying to control the narrative, a leak emerged. A recording. A meeting. Her voice. Caught. Raw. Angry. And once that surfaced, the entire internal culture of as ever would be exposed. Not the curated version. The real one. How do you sell warmth, wellness, and nostalgia when what your audience feels instead is resentment? Let's dive straight into the next collapse. We left off with Meghan's launch unraveling. TikTok was mocking her jam. Influencers were ghosting their promo boxes, and whispers of a hot mic moment had begun slithering through PR back channels. But if Chapter 1 was about optics, Chapter 2 is about trust. More specifically, how every layer of Meghan's lifestyle brand, as ever, from product formulation to packaging to the promise of authenticity, began to rot under the spotlight. And it all starts with crepes. Yes, crepes. You'd think something so charming, so harmless, so brunch-core as a bag of French-style crepe mix couldn't possibly cause controversy. And yet, the $28 as ever crepe mix became the symbol of everything wrong with the brand. Not because it was dangerous, not because it was defective, but because it was insulting. Let's break this down. 1. The price tag. $28 for a pouch of dry flour and baking powder. The ingredients? Organic wheat flour, non-GMO cornstarch, pink Himalayan salt, Duchess blend vanilla bean powder, which, according to food experts, just means ground vanilla pods, something you can buy for $5 at Trader Joe's. No extras, no unique blends, no family recipe, just upmarket pancake mix. And yet, the marketing described it as an emotional celebration of healing through heritage. What does that even mean? One viral review on YouTube said it best. This is spiritual gaslighting in powder form. I'm sorry, no crepe has ever healed trauma. Another TikTok creator stitched the original with love, Meghan segment, holding a bag of store-brand mix and whispering dramatically, $2.99. And I feel just as emotionally whole. The backlash was brutal. But the kicker? It wasn't just the customers who were frustrated. 2. Leaked packaging memo. An anonymous former contractor from the product packaging team came forward to a niche branding podcast, Off the Record, describing the chaotic behind-the-scenes sprint to finalize the labels. He quote, "She changed the font 7 times in 2 days. She wanted it to feel like a letter from a best friend, but also like something sacred. It ended up looking like a Hallmark card in a Whole Foods aisle." Another designer claimed she was told to make the product descriptions feel like a page from Diana's diary meets a Pinterest board. Actual phrase used in a directive? Less gluten, more grace. Let that sink in. They were branding flour with feelings. But then came the most damaging leak of all, a screenshot of an internal Slack message allegedly sent by Meghan herself. "We're not selling food. We're selling a feeling." It was meant to be inspirational. Instead, it confirmed what critics already suspected. The entire brand was performative. 3. The tea controversy. Next came the tea, branded as the Meghan blend. It claimed to be a combination of lavender from California, bergamot oil from an ethical grower in Tunisia, and wild mint harvested under moonlight. Under moonlight. Naturally, the internet went wild. #Moonlight Mint trended. People filmed themselves sipping tea under lamps, whispering, "Do you feel the healing yet?" One viral video cut between Meghan's show and footage of a man in his backyard sprinkling Lipton into a mug with the caption, $2.99, harvested under kitchen light. But the worst was yet to come, because as ever made a bold claim. Their tea was gut-calming, soul-balancing, hormone-harmonizing. You can't just say that. Within days, a coalition of nutritionists on TikTok began debunking the ingredients. One registered dietitian said bluntly, "This tea won't fix your gut. It won't fix your hormones. It'll fix your wallet, and not in the way you want." Soon after, as Ever quietly removed the health claims from the product page. But the screenshots lived on. Still, the most crushing blow came from a group Meghan probably never expected, her own fans. On Reddit forums dedicated to royal watchers and Meghan supporters alike, users began sharing their disappointment. One thread titled, "I wanted to love this brand, but I feel duped," received over 7,000 upvotes. Top comment, "I bought the full set. I wanted to support her. I've defended Meghan for years. But this feels like she doesn't respect us." That wasn't a hater. That was a devotee. And she felt betrayed. Which brings us to the most emotional part of this collapse, the breakdown of trust. 4. When fans turn. In influencer culture, your first customers are your biggest supporters. They're the ones who see themselves in your story, who rally behind your name, who want you to win. But what happens when you treat them like walking wallets? You lose them, not with fury, but with disappointment. And disappointment cuts deeper. Several YouTubers in the lifestyle and beauty space, previously aligned with Meghan's values, began releasing "Why I Returned" as Ever products videos. Not hit pieces, just sadness. "I expected a brand built on purpose," one said. "I got overpriced honey in a glass jar with a sticker that peeled off in the mail." And then, the honey saga happened. 5. The honey that sparked a firestorm. The premium item. The pride of the launch. Labeled Royal Harvest Honey, Spring Gold Blend. Marketed as harvested from Meghan's private Montecito beehives, with notes of citrus, wild chamomile, and sunrise. Sunrise. That was the descriptor. Sunrise. But soon, customers began reporting something unusual. The honey was crystallizing fast. Some jars arrived clumped. Others leaked. One Instagram story showed a lid rusted shut. Hue investigation. A former fulfillment employee anonymously messaged a consumer watchdog account. They rushed the final batch before the launch. Some weren't sealed properly, but we were told to ship anyway because the team said, "It'll be fine. It's just jam." It wasn't fine. Multiple food safety blogs picked up the issue. One even submitted a Freedom of Information Act request to see if any complaints had reached the California Department of Public Health. Then a wellness blogger dropped this gem. This isn't luxury. This is Gwyneth cosplay with bad logistics. And finally, perhaps the most ironic twist, Meghan's own sustainability angle came under fire. 6. The eco lie. Remember how the packaging was touted as zero waste, compostable, and carbon conscious? Turns out not quite. One eco-conscious YouTuber ran tests on the materials. Her verdict? The outer box is recyclable, sure, but the inner product sleeves are lined with a plastic polymer that does not break down naturally. She emailed the brand. Got a generic, "We value your feedback" response. So she made a video, and it went viral. The title? Meghan Markle's greenwashing scandal. Brutal. So now, we're left with a brand collapsing from multiple angles. Quality control issues. Dishonest marketing. Misleading health claims. Faux sustainability. Betrayed fans. But we're not done. Because all of this would have stayed within the lifestyle sphere had it not been for one major leak. One voice memo. One former As Ever employee. A 37-second audio clip leaked to a gossip columnist containing Meghan's voice in a tense meeting, reportedly saying, "I don't care what they say. They'll buy it anyway. My name is the value." That quote exploded online. And suddenly, everything changed. Because now it wasn't just a bad launch. It was a manipulative one. A calculated cash grab masked as emotional healing. The internet turned. The press followed. And Meghan? She started making calls. But the damage was done. The crepes were stale. The tea was bitter. And the trust? Crumbling, faster than the biscuits in her promo basket. And yet, as her team scrambled to plug leaks and silence critics, Meghan turned to someone she trusted. Her creative director. Her branding whisperer. Her vision shaper. But that person? They were already halfway out the door. And what they left behind was a resignation letter that would detonate the internal narrative and expose Meghan's behind-the-scenes behavior in brutal, unscripted clarity. How does a perfectly curated dream shatter in less than a minute? Not with press, not with protests, but with one word. 3 syllables. Enough. Let's pick up right where we left off. The tea was bitter. The honey was leaking. The $28 crepe mix was becoming a meme. And Meghan Markle, the woman who built As Ever as her soft focus, post-royal reinvention, was now facing an avalanche of public backlash. But what really lit the fuse behind closed doors wasn't the poor reviews. It was betrayal, not just from customers, not just from influencers, but from inside her own house. It all began in a glass-walled meeting room at the As Ever headquarters, a hyper-curated, California minimalist space Meghan reportedly referred to as the Hive. A space filled with soft neutrals, essential oil diffusers, mood boards pinned with images of Diana, Goop layouts, and artisanal lavender fields. But on that day, the air wasn't calm. Tension buzzed louder than the bees in her promo videos. The room was filled with the core team: head of operations, head of branding, a Netflix liaison, legal counsel, logistics manager, and Meghan herself, dressed in head-to-toe ivory, eyes locked on the flat screen showing the latest analytics dashboard. Sales down, returns skyrocketing, brand sentiment collapsing. For a brief moment, silence. Then the Netflix liaison, according to a later leak, delivered the line no founder wants to hear. "We're getting nervous questions from above. If we can't stabilize, this could jeopardize further projects." Meghan reportedly blinked. Then, slowly, she responded, "This was never just about products. It's about me. People are judging me." And that was the moment everything shifted. What followed was described by one person present as a spiraling monologue that turned the air thick. Meghan allegedly launched into a tirade. Part defensive, part desperate. She accused the team of failing her vision, said the packaging felt cold, the storytelling wasn't emotional enough, claimed the customer base was too easily influenced by online trolls, insisted that influencers were jealous, that critics were misogynists, that former royal staffers were probably behind the smear. Then she said it. "I hate you all." It was sharp, low, cold, and according to one staffer, crystal clear. A power vacuum exploded in the room. Everyone froze. No one moved. No one breathed. Until the creative director, the woman who had been with Meghan from the very first Pinterest board, who shaped the entire look and feel of As Ever, stood up. Her name? Rachel Cohen, a former Vogue art director, known for her calm, collaborative style, rumored to be one of Meghan's few trusted confidants outside the Archwell bubble. She looked Meghan in the eye and said, "Then you don't need me." Then she walked out, just like that. The room remained silent. But Meghan? She didn't follow. Why? Some say it was pride. Others say it was shock. But others say it was calculated. Because the truth was, Rachel knew everything. She had been in every meeting, reviewed every pitch, edited every photo shoot, and sat in on every Netflix production call. She'd seen Meghan cry over font choices, heard her obsess over Diana energy, helped build the now infamous emotional flavor wheel that categorized jam varieties based on internal healing states. Yes, that's a real thing. So when Rachel left, it wasn't just a resignation. It was an escape, and Meghan knew it. Which is why, within 24 hours, Rachel was reportedly served a pre-litigation notice, a reminder of her NDA, her severance clause, and a gag order clause so strict it prohibited her from describing her feelings about the color palette. But that letter? Too late. Because before Rachel walked out of that room, she dropped something on the table. A printed packet. 22 pages. Title: The Disconnect, a branding review of As Ever. Inside, it contained the most damning thing possible, the truth. Not just about customer feedback, but about Meghan herself. Here are some highlights, leaked weeks later by someone who claimed to have seen the draft. Page 3. The brand voice is inconsistent. We are trying to sound grounded and elite at the same time. It feels manipulative. Page 6. We are marketing to a demographic Meghan doesn't understand. These are women who know when they're being sold a fantasy. Page 11. Internally, team morale is collapsing. No one feels heard. Everything is rewritten in Meghan's voice, even when it doesn't make sense. Page 17. This brand is not failing because of trolls. It's failing because it's inauthentic, and the audience knows it. Page 20. There is no shame in pivoting. But there is shame in pretending this is working. It was a brand obituary, written while the body was still breathing. But Rachel's departure wasn't the only bombshell that week. Because around the same time, an anonymous email was sent to a mid-level gossip columnist known for being NDA-proof. The subject line? You need to hear this. Attached was a 37-second audio clip. Crackly, muffled, but unmistakable. It was Meghan's voice, mid-meeting, saying the following. "They'll buy anything with my face on it. I mean, come on. It's not about jam. It's about power." And then, laughter. Not evil. Not mocking. Just detached. The internet detonated. Reddit threads popped. TikTok creators lip-synced the audio, staging parody board meetings. News outlets ran with the Meghan audio leak, like it was the Zapruder film. Hashtags exploded. Hashtag Jamgate. Hashtag power over peach preserves. Hashtag as ever never again. Within 48 hours, Google searches for as ever returns policy spiked by 700%. Within 72, Twitter threads emerged detailing shady refund processes, lack of customer support, and silent deactivation of product pages. And amid the chaos, Netflix went dark. That's right, the With Love Meghan series quietly delisted from its homepage. No press announcement. No renewal notice. Just gone. PR teams scrambled to redirect. They blamed a seasonal shift. Claimed Netflix was focusing on different content verticals. But insiders whispered something very different. Netflix execs were furious. Not about the jam, but about the image. Because Meghan wasn't just a partner. She was a brand extension. And this scandal? It made the streamer look complicit in fraud. Even worse. According to leaked emails, Meghan had pitched a follow-up docuseries centered on women-led entrepreneurship, featuring as ever's growth story. The pitch deck's title? Rebuilding with Grace. It was dead before it arrived. And now, Meghan was alone. Her creative director, gone. Netflix, pulling away. Her own team, fractured. Her customer base, furious. But the most terrifying part wasn't external. It was internal, because Meghan still believed this was salvageable. Sources say she called an emergency summit the following weekend, invited a crisis PR expert, rehired a former comms strategist from her Archwell days, demanded a new redemption arc. What was the plan? A letter, a personal message, signed by Meghan, handwritten, inserted into every as ever order moving forward. Message, thank you for seeing me. The irony? By that point, nobody wanted to see her. And just when she thought she could take back control, someone else was about to speak. Someone unexpected. Someone who hadn't said a word since Montecito's quiet back patios first buzzed with dreams of bees, jam, and legacy. A former friend. A celebrity. An icon. A woman with her own empire, who had supported Meghan once, but now was done staying silent. Because when even Oprah starts pulling away, you know it's about to get real. What happens when the numbers tell a story you can't spin? You hide them. You bury them. You pray they don't leak. But when you're Meghan Markle, and the brand collapsing beneath your feet bears your name, your face, your curated lifestyle, there's no hiding. Only delay. Only panic. And when the boxes started coming back, it wasn't just a return. It was a reckoning. Let's talk numbers. Because while public backlash is noisy, memes, hashtags, hot takes, the real carnage happens behind the scenes. In spreadsheets, in fulfillment centers, in Slack threads labeled urgent, and the as-ever return numbers were catastrophic. Let's rewind to week 3 of the brand's official launch. At this point, the Netflix show had debuted. The initial influencer seeding had gone out. Website traffic was spiking. Meghan's PR machine was churning through stories about purpose-driven wellness. But something else was spiking too. Product returns. Hundreds, then thousands. From direct-to-consumer orders. From boutique retailers. From curated subscription boxes. Even from international markets Meghan had personally greenlit for early rollout. Australia, Canada, and the UAE. Within 21 days of launch, the return rate crossed 14.3%. That may not sound like much, but in consumer packaged goods, anything above 5% is considered a red flag. 14.3% is a siren. And it didn't stop there. By the end of the first 60 days, internal documents show that over 32% of the flagship product line, crepe mix, tea tins, and the now notorious Royal Harvest honey, had been returned or refunded. Why? Let's break it down. Top customer complaints, compiled from leaked customer service logs. Items arrived damaged. Leaking honey jars. Mold inside one tea tin. Yes, someone posted photos. Bent crepe mix pouches. Smell was off. Several customers described the Royal Harvest honey as having a fermented scent. One Reddit post claimed the honey had a weird metallic tang. Packaging misleading. Some boxes listed 100% recyclable, but components weren't recyclable in most local areas. Labels said, made in Montecito, but batch numbers traced back to a third-party co-packer in New Jersey. Tastes bland/bad. Multiple viral reviews called the crepe mix cardboard in disguise. Tea described as lavender potpourri steeped in disappointment. Too expensive for what it is. Across the board, price versus value mismatch. But the most damaging complaint? I feel lied to. And that's not about taste. That's not about packaging. That's about trust. Let's dig deeper. Because the numbers didn't just haunt Meghan's product team. They also began trickling up to her investors. That's right, as ever wasn't 100% Meghan funded. A select group of silent investors. Many believed to be entertainment insiders and social impact funders had backed the brand with mid-seven-figure funding. Why? Because of the promise. Because of her. The pitch had been clear. Built-in global name recognition. Netflix distribution as a marketing channel. Direct link to women's empowerment and ethical entrepreneurship. In the deck, projections that showed 40% growth month-over-month. Loyalty retention rates above 70%. A launch trajectory modeled after Goop's early success. But what those investors received instead? A confidential Q1 launch performance report that was never meant to see daylight. Until it did. Key excerpts, leaked via anonymous secure email. Retail reorders down 83% from forecast. Customer churn 4.5x industry average. High-volume fulfillment partner considering breach of contract penalty due to return volume. Brand sentiment and social tracking dropped from 88% positive at launch to 41% by week 5. Urgent recommendation. Cease influencer expansion until brand recalibration complete. And then, the most damning line. Founder visibility tied to declining consumer sentiment. Recommend temporary pivot to anonymized sub-branding. Translation? Take Meghan's name off the jars. That one stung. Because for Meghan, as ever was more than jam. It was identity. A rebranding of the royal narrative. A way to show the world, I don't need the crown. I have my own kingdom. But that kingdom was leaking through the mail. And customers weren't just returning items. They were documenting it. YouTube unboxings transformed into reboxings. TikTokers filmed dramatic reenactments of them sealing the crepe mix back up and writing, "Return TO sender," in Sharpie. One viral post even showed a woman dumping the tea into a flower bed with the caption, "At least the plants deserve healing." Brutal. But there was another layer to this, one far more dangerous than bad PR. Because while the press focused on customer disappointment, someone started looking into logistics fraud. A mid-level logistics manager speaks out. Let's call her Claire. Claire worked at a third-party fulfillment center contracted by, as ever in Sacramento. Her role? Overseeing inventory, returns, and damaged stock management. She contacted a niche business gossip blogger with a very specific claim. They were underreporting the return rate in their own system. According to Claire, the platform used to track warehouse stock was intentionally decoupled from the customer return platform used by the Shopify front end. The result? The warehouse saw one number. The brand team saw another. Claire's evidence included mismatched SKU reconciliation logs, timestamp data showing deleted return entries, screenshots of internal emails asking her to pause logging returns until new directive issued. If true, this wasn't just mismanagement. It was fraudulent concealment. And the motive? Simple. To protect Meghan. To shield her from the ugly numbers. To give her PR team time to shape the narrative. But the numbers weren't going to wait. Because while Meghan's team tried to buy time, another group had already started noticing the discrepancies. Online retailers. One well-known luxury e-commerce platform had signed on to carry as ever as an exclusive domestic wellness brand. Think, the Net-a-Porter of lifestyle. But behind the scenes, they were furious. Returns were flowing in. Inventory was rotting. Their customer service teams were swamped. So what did they do? They pulled the line. Silently. One day, as ever products disappeared from their site. No statement. No announcement. Just gone. A screenshot comparison between launch day and week 8 circulated on Reddit like wildfire. Meghan Markle's brand scrubbed from a leaked platform. What are they hiding? And then came the final straw. A leaked internal retail memo from the platform. Our values don't align with dishonest branding or underperforming inventory. Remove all listings by end of day. That memo reached Twitter. It made headlines. And Meghan? Well, she did what she always does in moments of crisis. She blamed the press. Sources say she told her inner circle. They're twisting everything. It's not the products. It's a smear campaign. But even she couldn't deny what came next. Because in the middle of the night, at a fulfillment hub in Glendale, California, staff received an alert from headquarters. Effective immediately, all shipments paused. Then another. Hold all inventory. Do not restock. Do not discard. Await further instructions. It wasn't a recall. It wasn't a product suspension. It was brand triage, as ever was bleeding. And Meghan's team was trying to cauterize the wound. But behind the scenes, even her most trusted allies were growing nervous. Because one person had just gone radio silent. Someone the brand counted on. Someone who had hosted Meghan in their garden. Someone who had given her a platform when the crown took hers away. And that someone was about to make a decision that would ripple through the entire celebrity brand world. Because when Oprah goes quiet, the world notices. When your empire is crumbling, you expect attacks from the outside. But when the silence comes from the inside, from friends who once stood beside you, that's when the real panic begins. Because public criticism is noisy. It's hashtags, hot takes, and memes. But celebrity distancing? That's silent, surgical, and devastating. And in Meghan Markle's world, where perception is currency, silence isn't just absence. It's betrayal. Let's talk about the inner circle. The curated coterie of names Meghan built her brand on. The ones who elevated her from royal renegade to global wellness tastemaker. These weren't just acquaintances. These were co-signers, power validators. Oprah, Serena Williams, Tyler Perry, Priyanka Chopra, Mindy Kaling, Chrissy Teigen. Each played a role in crafting Meghan's post-palace image. And each, in some way, was connected to the As Ever launch. But when the backlash hit, and the jam started coming back faster than it shipped out, something strange happened. They vanished. Let's start with Oprah, the Queen Maker. The woman who gave Meghan and Harry that interview in 2021, launching 1,000 headlines and rebranding them as global survivors. Oprah didn't just offer her platform. She offered her blessing. So when Meghan's lifestyle brand launched, it was widely assumed that Oprah would support it, publicly, proudly. Especially since, as insiders revealed, Meghan had personally sent her an As Ever deluxe box, including a handwritten note and a limited edition tea blend named Sunlight Soul. The PR team reportedly prepared multiple drafts of social captions for Oprah's team to use. But what did Oprah post? Nothing. Not a single story. Not a grid photo. Not even a like. At first, fans thought maybe it was a timing issue. Then maybe a scheduling thing. Then maybe the team was spacing out endorsements. But after 2 weeks, it became clear. Oprah was out. What happened? Sources close to Harpo Productions later leaked whispers of an internal discussion. The issue? Liability. Credibility. The As Ever controversy had reached fever pitch. The customer complaints, the refunds, the leaked voice memos. Oprah's team, famously image-conscious, reportedly conducted their own soft audit of the brand before deciding to quietly pull back. One quote allegedly circulated in a meeting. "We're not putting her jam in the favorite things basket, and that's final." Boom. That was it. If As Ever had been included in Oprah's iconic annual favorite things list, it would have salvaged millions in reputation and sales. But instead, crickets. Meghan noticed. Fast. Insiders say she reached out personally, twice. Once via her team. Once directly, through a voice memo. No response. Then came Serena. Longtime friend. Loyal defender. Tennis icon. Serena and Meghan's friendship had been carefully documented. Photos at baby showers, social support during Wimbledon appearances, joint empowerment quotes in glossy interviews. And early drafts of the With Love, Meghan series even included a Serena cameo, promoting female-driven entrepreneurship. But that episode? Cut. Why? Allegedly, Serena's team withdrew permission just days before launch. No explanation. But what followed told the story. Serena, who typically amplifies female-founded brands, especially from friends, made no mention of as ever. Even more revealing? A subtle unfollow. Yes, Serena Williams, former bestie, unfollowed the as ever brand Instagram 10 days after launch. No drama, no statement, just click, gone. And fans noticed. Reddit threads lit up. TikTok sleuths ran side-by-sides showing follower counts. Twitter questioned the silence. And Meghan? According to a source who once worked with her on a Netflix project, she was livid. She felt abandoned. She told someone, "After everything I've done for her." It wasn't just silence. It was emotional treason. But here's the twist. Some believe Serena tried to warn her. A rumor circulated, never confirmed, that Serena sent Meghan a private message in the week before launch. Just one line. "Are you sure you want to do this now?" Interpret that however you want. But one thing's clear. When the scandal exploded, Serena wasn't anywhere near the fire. And she wasn't alone. Because it wasn't just the A-listers. The influencers left too. Remember those glossy Instagram wellness accounts that had promoted Meghan's projects before? The ones who lit up over her Archetypes podcast, who shared her stylized black and white baby bump photos. Gone. Silent. One major influencer, who received a full PR box and originally filmed an enthusiastic unboxing, deleted the video within 72 hours. Why? An anonymous message she later posted on a private Discord server gave a clue. "I got DMs warning me that the tea caused someone's stomach issues. My lawyer said to distance myself." Another influencer posted an apology video. Not to Meghan, but to her followers. "I never meant to promote something that wasn't safe. I didn't test the products. I trusted the name." Trusted the name. That's the key. Because Meghan's brand wasn't built on ingredients, or packaging, or pricing. It was built on trust. And once that crumbled, so did everything else. Even the brand ambassadors started jumping ship. A well-known mommy blogger from Texas who had been hired to promote the kid-friendly crepe mix posted a cryptic tweet just days after launch. When you get asked to fake excitement for something you'd never feed your own child, it makes you rethink everything. Fans connected the dots. She was dropped from the brand partnership shortly after. No public statement, just another silent erasure. But silence isn't absence. Sometimes it's strategy. Because here's the insider whisper that changed everything. There was a secret email chain, leaked by a rogue assistant, titled Crisis Protocol, Celebrity Tier Comms. It outlined 3 categories: A-list, Oprah, Serena, Tyler, delay response, do not engage, await directive. B-list, influencers, entrepreneurs, remove posts, silence preferred. C-list, TikTokers, podcast guests, ignore unless viral. If so, engage legal. And who was CC'd on that chain? A familiar name. A woman tied to Meghan's original PR pivot after leaving the royal family. One of her most trusted former advisors. Which means Meghan knew. She knew the distancing had begun. She knew the collapse wasn't just about bad jam or leaky honey. It was about her brand being rejected by her own tribe. And when Oprah and Serena go quiet, the world starts asking, who's next? Because if they won't stand by her, why should anyone else? But Meghan wasn't ready to surrender. Not yet. There was one platform left. One lifeline. The media. And she was about to use it. In the most unexpected, controversial way possible. Not with a press release. Not with a video. But with a lawsuit. Because when silence fails, you start making noise. They say Hollywood is built on illusion. Perfect lighting. Perfect angles. Perfect stories. But what happens when someone tries to bring that illusion into real life? Into your kitchen, your shopping cart, your breakfast table? What happens when someone tries to brand authenticity? The answer? It collapses. And that's exactly what was happening with Meghan Markle. Because as ever wasn't just a lifestyle brand. It was her Hollywood persona, packaged, priced, and shipped straight to your doorstep. But the real twist? Even Hollywood didn't buy it. Let's rewind. From the moment Meghan and Harry stepped back from royal duties, they made a calculated pivot toward Hollywood. Deals with Netflix, Spotify, Penguin Random House. High-powered agents. Glamorous friends. Buzzy projects with even buzzier buzzwords. Equity, healing, impact. But here's the thing. Hollywood may be superficial. But it's also brutal. And when the cameras stop rolling, it doesn't care how many headlines you've had or how many palaces you've left behind. It only cares about one thing: results. And Meghan? She wasn't delivering. Let's break it down. 1. The pitch problem. In the months leading up to the As Ever launch, Meghan had meetings. Lots of them. With studios. With brand incubators. With retailers. With Hollywood dealmakers. She pitched As Ever as a cross between Goop, Magnolia, and Honest Company. With a royal sparkle. Her words. The pitch deck, according to someone who saw it, featured mood boards of sunlit orchards, honey jars next to copies of the feminine mystique, and quotes from Princess Diana. Yes, really. The tagline? Wellness with lineage. One exec reportedly said, it felt like she was trying to be Oprah, Martha Stewart, and Diana, all at once. And the problem? None of it felt real. They weren't selling a product. They were selling Meghan mythology. A narrative of grace, pain, survival, and domestic peace. The ask? An initial $12 million valuation based on projected sales, show integration, and celebrity partnerships. The reality? Most meetings ended with polite nods and no follow-up. One retailer, who spoke on condition of anonymity, said, there was no market research. Just Meghan's belief that people would buy anything she put her name on. 2. The With Love, Meghan fallout. Then came the Netflix rollout. The show was supposed to be a game changer. Think Chef's Table meets The Home Edit meets The Crown, but with crepes. Instead, it flopped. Within days of airing, viewing stats revealed a steep drop-off after episode 1. By episode 3, engagement was so low Netflix pulled promotional support from their homepage. Internally, sources say Netflix execs were stunned. Why? Because the show wasn't just boring. It was alienating. Viewers described it as detached, unrelatable, and vaguely cultish. The production budget was rumored to be in the $4 to $6 million range. For jars of jam, slow-motion teacup pours, and Meghan walking through lavender fields barefoot. And let's not forget the scripted monologues. Lines like, when I stir this honey, I stir my ancestors. And, crepes are about memory. They're about healing. Twitter had a field day. One viral post read, every time Meghan opens her mouth, a bee loses its will to live. Brutal. But it wasn't just the audience that turned. Netflix executives were livid. According to insiders, there had been pressure from the top to deliver a follow-up series, one focusing on As Ever's journey from idea to impact. But after With Love, Meghan flopped. That follow-up? Dead. A source at Netflix told Deadline. It didn't test well. People wanted vulnerability. They got veneers. 3. The branding whisperers walk out. Behind the scenes, even Meghan's team was struggling. She had brought on a group of top-tier Hollywood consultants to shape As Ever's brand voice. Think, ex-Goop staffers, former Honest Company creative directors, and a strategist from Magnolia Network. They were told Meghan wanted soulful commerce. What they got? A nightmare. One of them later leaked a meeting transcript where Meghan allegedly said, I want every product to feel like a whispered apology from the universe. Yes, that's real. Another branding exec, who was tasked with writing product descriptions, said, she rejected everything unless it sounded like a line from a Hallmark movie written by a grief counselor. The final straw? The infamous honey jar copy. Spread gently. You're touching more than toast. You're touching time. That was Meghan's edit. When the branding team pushed back, they were dismissed one by one. Eventually, the final creative director walked. Rachel Cohen. Her departure? You already know the fallout from Chapter 3. But the bigger message was this. Hollywood wasn't buying the performance anymore. Because Meghan wasn't just acting. She was overacting in her products, her messaging, even her business dealings. And the town had seen it before. As one agent famously put it, she's trying to play Gwyneth's part without earning Gwyneth's scars. 4. The Archetypes ghost. Now, remember the Spotify deal? Archetypes was Meghan's podcast debut. A $20 million deal. Massive hype. Royal watchers. Feminists. Hollywood. All eyes on her. But what happened? After one season, Spotify walked away. Why? Poor execution. Low retention. Questionable authenticity. One Spotify exec went viral for calling the show a grifter move. And Meghan? Allegedly blindsided. Because she still believed she was resonating. That she was being misunderstood. Sabotaged. Targeted. But the truth was more painful. She had lost the very people who once championed her. The producers. The stylists. The consultants. The dealmakers. Even the magazine editors who once fawned over her? Silent. When has ever launched? Not one major Hollywood trade. Not Variety, not The Hollywood Reporter, not Deadline. Ran a front-page feature. And why would they? There was no story. Just spin. Because you can sell a fantasy, sure. But not when the fantasy is built on a version of yourself the world no longer believes in. 5. The agent whisper. And now, for the quietest, but perhaps most telling, betrayal. A whisper. From inside WME, Meghan's new representation powerhouse. A whisper that she was becoming too difficult to book. One exec reportedly said during a client strategy session, "She needs a win, but everything feels radioactive." Another described her as burning through goodwill at a terrifying pace. The same firm that once heralded her as the future of feminist media was now allegedly advising clients not to associate too closely. And it's not hard to see why. Because Meghan wasn't pivoting. She was doubling down. On the aesthetic. On the language. On the fantasy. Even as customers returned products by the thousands. Even as fans walked away. Even as Hollywood rolled its eyes. She couldn't see it. Or worse, refused to. And that's when the industry turned cold. Because in Hollywood, reinvention is everything. But if you pretend too hard, you don't get a comeback. You get the cold shoulder. And Meghan was already feeling it. Because when your calls go unanswered, when your name gets quietly removed from industry shortlists, when producers say pass before you've even pitched, you're not just failing, you're exiled. Again. But this time, it wasn't Buckingham Palace pushing her out. It was the town she thought she could conquer. And as the Netflix silence deepened and the red carpet stopped calling, Meghan did what she'd always done. She tried to fight back. This time, with strategy, with lawsuits, with PR fire. But what she didn't know was that someone from her past had just resurfaced. Someone who knew the old Meghan. Someone who had loved her. And he was ready to talk. Because Trevor Engelson was finally done being silent. She thought it was her golden ticket. Her direct line to global audiences. Her blank canvas. Her rebirth. But Meghan Markle's relationship with Netflix, once hailed as the crown jewel of her post-royal career, was quietly dissolving. And by the time the headlines caught on, the damage had already been done. Because Netflix doesn't do noise. It does numbers. And when With Love, Meghan premiered with a whisper instead of a roar, executives started shifting in their seats. Let's pull back the curtain on the moment Meghan realized her most powerful ally in Hollywood was about to become her biggest liability. And worse, they weren't going to tell her. They were just going to vanish. Act 1. The honeymoon phase. It all began with the deal. When Harry and Meghan signed their multi-million-dollar Netflix contract in 2020, reported to be worth upwards of $100 million, it was framed as the beginning of a content revolution. Diverse stories, inspirational programming, real voices from overlooked communities. The media hailed it as the Sussexes' Hollywood takeover. But behind the scenes, Netflix had one priority: return on investment. And Meghan? She had her own agenda. With Love, Meghan was never part of the original content roadmap. Sources inside Netflix say Meghan pitched it later, after her team saw the commercial success of wellness-adjacent series like Chef's Table, tidying up with Marie Kondo, and Home Edit. The twist? Meghan wanted her series to be personal, not just inspired by her life. She wanted a host, to narrate, to taste test, to share soulful domesticity through her own hands. And Netflix, hungry for buzz, said yes. The budget? $4.5 million for the first season. The plan? 6 episodes. High-gloss visuals. Cross-promotion with a soon-to-launch product line, as ever. Sounded like synergy. But what Netflix didn't expect was how oddly empty the show would feel. Act 2. The show that wasn't a show. When With Love, Meghan finally dropped, the reviews were polite. At first. Then came the cracks. Words like visually soothing but emotionally vacant. Branding exercise masquerading as content. Feels like a commercial shot on a trust fund. Rotten Tomatoes audience score? 38%. Even diehard Meghan supporters struggled to engage. Why? Because the show wasn't about anything. Not really. It was soft focus footage of her smiling while folding napkins. Of bees buzzing around flower beds. Of carefully arranged tea sets. Of her voice narrating. Sometimes, what we need most is silence. Silence, apparently, wasn't what audiences wanted. Viewership data, leaked by an internal marketing partner, showed. Episode 1, strong initial numbers. Episode 2, 53% viewer drop-off. Episode 3, 68% drop. Episode 4 through 6, barely a blip. Netflix noticed. Quietly, the show was removed from the homepage carousel. Marketing spend was pulled. The platform stopped pushing algorithmic recommendations. In short, they buried it. Act 3, the behind-the-scenes shift. Then things got really interesting. Meghan, unaware of the shift, had already begun working on Season 2. A planned arc focusing on women of resilience, blending their heritage with entrepreneurship. Translation, a more documentary-style follow-up doubling down on the as-ever-launch narrative. She pitched it hard. Emails, mood boards, a 37-slide deck presented to Netflix VPs titled From Hive to Heart, Building Empathy Through Enterprise. But Netflix's response? Polite and slow. The first red flag came when Meghan's team requested location approvals for shoots in Napa and Sedona. Approvals that normally came in hours took weeks. The second red flag? Budget discussions went quiet. Then came the third and final blow. Netflix officially declined to renew with Love, Meghan for a second season. No announcement, no press release, no statement. They just didn't pick it up. And when Meghan's team followed up, they received a terse, legal-padded reply. At this time, Netflix is exploring other editorial directions aligned with evolving audience demand. Translation? It flopped. We're out. And Meghan? Allegedly furious. Insiders say she took it as a personal betrayal. Claimed Netflix was caving to tabloid pressure. Accused execs of not supporting diverse storytelling. But the truth was simpler. She wasn't profitable anymore. Her name, once a magnet for streaming engagement, had become a risk. And Netflix doesn't bet on risk. Especially not after the Spotify implosion. Remember that? Spotify had already backed away from archetypes. No follow-up season. No continuation. Just a gentle fade to black. And now Netflix, her last major content pillar, was doing the same. But it wasn't just about TV. It was about her brand. Because with Love, Meghan was designed to be the funnel for as ever. The emotional hook. The life